Hi, this is Mrs. Howell, your student's 7th grade science teacher. I would like to give you an overview of what quarter 2 summatives would look like. We only have 4 weeks left before winter break, and this will be a jam-packed 4 weeks. There are 3 altogether of the summatives. Let's take them one by one. The 3 summatives will cover all 4 science criteria. Criterion A, which is knowledge and understanding of science, would be the energy flow pictograph. So your students will show their knowledge and understanding of what we've covered in quarter 2 through a pictograph. This is due on December 7th. For criteria B and C, which is inquiring and designing and processing and evaluating, they are to design a Mars habitat with their group. This is due December 14th. For criterion D, which is reflecting on the impacts of science, they are to reflect on the impacts of science with all the concepts that we have talked about for quarter 2. And this is an in-class claim evidence reasoning essay on December 14th. Let's take it one by one. Criterion A summative, which is the energy flow pictograph. This needs to be done at home. I will give them the paper on Monday. Formative checks on their paper will be on block day and Friday next week. They don't have to have this done. I just need to see progress, and that way I can give them feedback if they have any misconceptions on some of the concepts that we've talked about. But it is important they have done something so that I can give them feedback. If they give me a blank piece of paper on block day and Friday, the only feedback I can give them is, you need to start. This is due on December 7th. So altogether, they will have 2 weeks to work on this. They can work on this at home. We won't have time to work on it in class, so it's important for them to spend time at home working on this one. No late work is accepted after December 7th, which means that if they don't give me their final pictograph, I will use their formative checks from block day and Friday next week as their summative grade. This is how it looks like. It's a blank piece of paper. The back side will have instructions of what needs to be done, of the things that they need to illustrate and label. Mainly we're talking about photosynthesis and cellular respiration, and we are talking about the flow of energy in rocks, also chemical and physical change. We have covered photosynthesis and cellular respiration and chemical and physical changes. We are yet to cover the flow of energy of rocks, so that's what we're going to cover this week. In their pictograph, they need to have all of these vocabulary words. So with the pictograph, they need to label it. They need to have some captions in their pictures that has these concepts, these vocabulary words. Underneath this backside shows the assessment. This is the checklist that I'll be using, seeing what they have done so far, and hopefully this will give them feedback on what they need to work on. This one will be checked in for block day next week, and then this one will be checked in for Friday next week. This I'm asking for them to explain to a grown-up their pictograph. And then if you can write down your feedback, whether they did a good job explaining photosynthesis, whether you understand cellular respiration because of how your student has explained it, or whether you're not sure about the rock cycle, any kind of feedback is appreciated, and that will bump their grade up. And then this is where I am doing my final summative checklist. And this is how I'm grading it. So how can you help? Ask them about their pictograph every night, starting Monday night. Ask to see the paper. Have them explain it to you. Ask them to start drawing a landscape scene with energy flow, starting with the sun. That's already half the battle right there. It's just starting. Usually there's a mental block for a lot of kids when they see a blank piece of paper. Just ask them, okay, draw the sun and start from there. And where does the sun's energy go? And help them store this paper in a safe place like a folder in their backpacks. because usually they just stuff it in and it will get wrinkled. This is where we're helping them understand that their summative paper or any kind of paper needs to be nice and neat. Remind them to bring their pictograph to school every day so that they can get feedback from their peers. And then Thursday night next week, would you please check their paper and give them feedback with their grade. If their grade will go up if I see feedback from a parent or a guardian. All right, on to criteria BC summative. This is where they design a Mars habitat with a group. Their end product is a 1 minute and 30-second video. Video is completed by a group reporting on Mars habitat. And there is this should show a renewable food source, details on how photosynthesis and cellular respiration is accounted for. They should have a renewable source of breathable air, talking about photosynthesis and cellular respiration again. And then they should talk about the mental and physical health of astronauts, and they should talk about how cellular respiration is accounted for when it comes to the astronauts moving. Here is a sample of Lockheed Martin's winner of Generation Beyond competition. And I'm starting the video at 1:03.
Source of water along with the filtration system. This is my growing module, also known as the SGF or self-burning farm. It will be growing plants such as lettuce and rosina. After the seeds are planted, development will move in slowly each week for around 8 months. Since there is little gravity in space, the water and fertilizer will be put into the soil by pipes. Then after the plant is fully grown, it will be automatically cut, cleaned, and frozen. Then the soil will be aerated and reused for the next cycle. This is where the frozen plant starts using. Due to gravity, astronauts will lose bone mineral density and their cardiovascular system will weaken, so daily activity is needed. In the adventure, there will be a simulator in which they will be able to choose their exercise machine and let it drive when they are exercising. The simulator also includes leisure activities such as skiing and kayaking. Their rooms will have circular ceilings, and there they will be able to watch downloaded shows even to places that are exceptions at home. Thanks for watching, and see you on the journey tomorrow.
All right, so that's Amelia's video, and what I am basically looking at is just the effort to see how the kids can visualize a habitat in Mars, talking about photosynthesis and cellular respiration. They can use a whiteboard when they're doing their video. They can use paper to illustrate their ideas. Just for them to be able to communicate what they think will be needed for astronauts to survive in Mars's atmosphere and environment. In addition, students will complete a Google slideshow that shows their design process, and I will provide a template that they can work with. The video and Google Slides are due December 14, and I understand that this can be a group grade. But in IB, we don't give group grades, we give individual grades. So most likely after this whole project, I will be giving a claim evidence reasoning for each individual, and then that will be their summative grade, which will prove if they fully participated in the group project or not. So parents and guardians, how can you help? Make sure they are in school every day for this project, because all instruction and teacher feedback will be done in class. Students will work with their groups that will help them with their ideas, and then ask them about their project and assess if they are making progress. If you have the capacity, if you have devices at home, ask them to see their Google slide and ask them to see their notebook as well. I think I'm going to have them take their notebooks home every day from this point so that they have access to it at home. Listen to them, ask clarifying questions, and then avoid judgment. We all know that middle schoolers can be emotional and they can be very sensitive to judgment. So if you're just asking questions about it, and even if you don't agree with what they're saying, just nod. And then the main thing is, work on cellular respiration, because I wasn't clear about that either. So try not to correct them, right? But just show that they're listening. Okay, criterion D, reflection on the impacts of science. This is an in-class claim, evidence, and reasoning essay. Most likely we'll do this via Illuminate. This we will do on December 14th. So that's the first 3 weeks of school. How can you help? Just make sure they are in school every day, please, for the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks. All right. What about the last week of school before winter? This is our feedback week. Most likely we will have like 3 minimum days. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are our minimum days. This is a chance for students to make up certain summatives, mainly on Monday and Tuesday, because those aren't minimum days. And we'll have our full class time, depending on the amount of students who need it. This is also a chance for students to work on their STEM project, which is due in February. But I will make another video about that. So if you have any questions, email me at mhowell@fcusd.org. Again, I'm looking forward to teaming up with you to make sure that your student is successful in science. Thanks.